All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brad Bullock.
And Olivia Bullock. We are almost ready to start Gen 1. First, Brad will be talking.
Thanks, Olivia. So we're here today from beautiful Lake Sammamish, Seattle, Washington, and we're here to get 4th generation all-flash certified. If you've been following the storage market like we have, you've been probably noticing and talking to customers about the possible move and trend to move from legacy spinning disk arrays to all-flash data centers. And the way they're doing this is by adopting and leveraging new technology in the storage market that's leveraging all-flash SSDs. To understand kind of why customers are moving into this direction, you got to understand the benefits of moving to flash and the all-flash data center. The big three benefits that flash offers customers is 80% less rack space, 70% less power, and simplification and ease of use of managing enterprise storage for enterprise applications. So to understand kind of where we've come from over the last 7 or 8 years, you can check out a website called wikibon.org. It's an IT third-party analyst firm that came out and wrote an article that talked about the 4 different generations of all-flash storage architectures. So if we start and just talk about Generation 1. Generation 1 was basically our legacy traditional spinning disk arrays. Things like VMAX, VNX, NetApp, HDS, HP, IBM, your traditional storage arrays that we've been using for the last 30 years in the data center space. What we did with Generation 1 was we introduced SSD drives. And the whole concept and value prop of introducing SSDs into spinning disk legacy arrays was to accelerate specific application workloads or parts of an application. And so by inserting individual SSDs into the array, customers were able to basically provision volumes off of those few SSD drives to accelerate specific workloads. If you continue a couple years, kind of in the 2010-2011 era, we moved to Generation 2. Now Olivia's going to help me with Generation 2. But basically, Generation 2 is the idea of the introduction of flash-optimized storage arrays. Really not a whole lot different than Generation 1. The only thing that companies did was they basically optimized the write stream to basically write to flash first and then to stage off to spinning disk arrays. And there were still bottlenecks with Generation 2 and still issues that people had to manage around. At the end of the day, with Generation 2, you still dealt with the slowest piece of the architecture, and that was the spinning disk drive. So, as Olivia is showing on our cards, again, there's some drawbacks with Generation 2. Generation 2 came out roughly in 2008. Still used disk drives, and they introduced the concept of auto-tiering. If you don't know what auto-tiering is, auto-tiering roughly moves data between SSDs and spinning disks. Not completely practical for an all-flash data center architecture. So let's move to Generation 3. So Generation 3 storage architectures came out roughly about 2012 era. There's a huge move to flash, there's a huge opportunity in the market, and we've seen about 80 plus startups come out in this space that offer all flash storage solutions. So again, with Generation 3, what most companies did was they basically took a lot of the legacy characteristics of spinning disk, and all they did was replace spinning disk with flash drives. So while it made it very easy to use and accelerated specific application workloads, still they had the issues of legacy RAID. RAID is not optimized for flash. RAID was optimized for spinning disk. Some of the other things that Generation 3 brought over with them too was the fact of this dual controller architecture. So if you look at Generation 1 and Generation 2, there's the concept of one active controller and one passive controller. With Generation 3, that now becomes the largest bottleneck, essentially servicing host I/O. One active controller is trying to essentially do things like data reduction, such as deduplication, compression, other data services such as snapshots and replication. When you have only one active controller trying to do all of these data services and keep up with host I/O using flash, you have to compromise. And you basically compromise between performance and data reduction. So while Generation 3 brought a lot of advancements from Generation 1 and Generation 2, we still had issues with this architecture and trying to move all workloads, mixed workloads, to an all-flash storage architecture. So then we get to roughly 2013, 2014, and you're starting to see some new players now enter the market. And this is where xtreme I/O has been out for the last 18 months and offers a lot of value to customers trying to move to the all-flash data center. Let's look at Generation 4. Generation 4. All right, you can flip one more. So the main value proposition of Generation 4 all-flash storage architectures is that we've moved away from some of the legacy baggage that spinning disk architectures and that were prevalent in Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3. Those things were such as the scale-up dual controller architecture. We've now moved with Generation 4, we've moved to the distributed scale-out architecture, where we're adding basically compute, memory, and capacity together as we scale out our storage subsystem. At the end of the day, this enables customers to move mixed workloads, any application, and all applications that are running on traditional storage today to an all-flash storage array, and really being able to get to the all-flash data center vision that we're trying to go to. The other things that are key to the Generation 4 architecture is essentially unlimited snapshots. And so the value of this to the business is that storage administrators can now give DBA administrators the ability to spin up and spin down additional copies for free. So there's huge value in this in that it offers the most agility and flexibility in the data center for the application owners. And finally, one of the main benefits of the Generation 4 architecture is we've introduced a new concept of flash optimized data protection. And with xtreme I/O, we've introduced the concept of xtreme I/O data protection. We've moved away from the baggage of traditional RAID that was built for spinning disk. So no longer do we have to sacrifice or compromise the performance, compromise the performance and data reduction services. We get the best of both worlds. So, to close it up and to summarize, we believe that the Generation 4 all-flash storage architecture is the only storage architecture that will enable companies to move to the all-flash data center without compromise. Do you have anything to add, Olivia, to this? Maybe unicorns and pixie dust?
Well, as these say, my dad did cards, so you can see as our signs say.
All right. Well, I think in summary what Olivia is saying is we are now 4th generation certified, and we're going to throw out the challenge to Greg Lucas, Tim Christian, Phil Gable, Don Cole, and Nathan Thomas to get 4th generation all-flash certified. Thank you.